Welcome back to the Fan Speak Network as we are here to overreact to everything that we saw in week 2. Welcome back. This is the Fan Speak Network. Guys, let's see it here in the comments as we have plenty to talk about. And the gang's back together. One of the keys to our overreacting last week was having JC Zargo with us, someone to hold me accountable before I just run completely off the rails. And JC, happy to see you here. Tyler and I are looking casual, but you are dressed for business. How you feeling today?
I've been better spread. Pretty rough week for me. Just between the events of my trip to Miami and then the gambling day I had yesterday, it's a rough Monday for me personally.
Yeah, it is rough for Dolphins fans, and we're going to get right into that. But let me say what's up to my guy, Tyler. Tyler, after just smashing the opening week, we look like Canelo's opponent, Berlanga, this weekend as we just got beat up. How you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I mean, was able to get some of it back on the Texans last night, hoping to get some of it back on the Eagles tonight because I think the Eagles just absolutely smashed. But we'll talk about the games we've seen yesterday before we get into that one. So talk about our miserable Sunday.
Rough day for us is 2 of our plays on the sheet. We like to get them out early by Tuesday or Wednesday to beat the line moves. The Lions win against us, and it would have been 2 pushes instead of 2 losses. So, of course, that was disappointing. But, JC, we have to dive into probably the most disappointing thing that happened in week 2, and that was the injury to Tua Tagovailoa against the Buffalo Bills. That was the game that I completely got wrong, right? We were excited about the Dolphins going into the game, and even if Tua hadn't been hurt, that was a tough showing for him before the injury. Now he's going to be out for a while. Who knows? A normal concussion, we would say maybe 3 to 4 weeks, but due to the severity and the history of his concussions, it's pretty dark down there in Miami as we turn to Skylar Thompson. Your thoughts as a fan and someone who was at the stadium for the game. What was the feeling in the stadium, and how are you feeling about this now that you have some time to process it?
It's brutal. It's brutal. I'm not really one for a rant. I did an all-time after Dolphins played the Bills last year, and similar emotions. It is so hard being a Dolphins fan. Every time we have promise or it looks like something might be going our way, it all comes tumbling down. Reports came out this weekend that, another thing too that makes it so much worse are the talking heads, because there was nothing coming out of the Dolphins organization, but everyone in the media was saying like Tua needs to call it a quits. And the only thing coming out of Dolphins organization is Skylar Thompson's our guy. It's like, wow, we're not even going to look at alternative options under center. So it was really just the immediate negative outlook of what on earth we're going to do at quarterback, and our season is screwed without him. Leaving the stadium, everyone's tossing out options, and everything just kept coming back to Ryan Tannehill. And everyone hated him when he was in Miami the first time. So I don't know why the second go around would be any better. And then, I got a little bit of brightness when the Tom Brady rumors were thrown out there. But, it is nice to see Tua does plan on coming back. So I don't know if we can just kind of weather this wreck right now. There's still some promise for the season, but I'm trying not to be too optimistic. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, and I'm really sick of this crap.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not optimistic at all. As someone who drafted a lot of Tyreek Hill in fantasy football, it looks like his production is going to drop a lot. Tyler, I know that we feel bad for Tua and we want the best for him, but at the same time, even seeing what I saw, assuming that he did get hurt, I think it'd be fair to have this conversation. Were they right to pay him, as he looked downright dismal before the injury? Buffalo seems to have their number, so I don't want to overreact to one game, even though that's what we do here on the Overreaction Monday show. However, boy, it just seems like when you pay these quarterbacks that aren't elite, it hamstrings your team too much. What are your thoughts on what happened in Miami on Thursday night? Clyde's in the chat. What's up?
Yeah, I mean, seeing the injury kind of saved him from getting torn to shreds the next morning on every talk show because he was putting together a disastrous game. Let's be honest, he got paid off of the two wide receivers in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle because he hasn't been good without top-tier weapons. When he was at Alabama, he had Judy, he had Smith, he had Waddle, he had all these weapons. He gets to Miami, they don't have any of those weapons at first. He doesn't look good. They draft Waddle, they trade for Hill. Now he looks good again. So, I mean, he has no rushing ability. We see what happens when he runs the ball. He doesn't even know how to slide. He dives head first into someone's chest. So, I mean, for his health, I hope he's all right. I don't think he should step foot back on a football field. I think they should look at alternative spots at that quarterback position and maybe try and go out and get someone like take Russ off the Steelers' hands because it looks like this is Fields' job. They wouldn't have to give him much. He's dirt cheap because you really don't have the cap space to do anything now with this hindered Tua contract. So I think they kind of screwed themselves. But at the same time, if he comes back and plays halfway decent, maybe they could be a playoff team. But I still don't see them winning anything unless they are the one seed and every playoff game goes through Miami.
JC, is it Tua truther? Do you have any retorts to Tyler's and I criticism of his play on the field?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I do think there's a couple aspects overlooked there. I mean, one of the interceptions he threw, the one on fourth down, I think it was to Chosen. It was a perfect pass. And
Chosen he ran the wrong route. That wasn't his fault.
Right. And I don't know if he tripped up or whatever, but like it looked like that was going to be boom, great fourth down, keep the drive going. And that was a deep pass. So, I mean, that's a big turning point in the game. And then the drive Tua got injured on. I mean, he rushed for the first down and brought him to the 15. So he doesn't get injured. Maybe that's a touchdown there. There's 14 points. So, I mean, I just think a couple of bad plays on top of him then leaving the game made this seem way worse than it really was. I understand what Tyler is getting at about Tua, but, I mean, the fact remains he's got the weapons. So who cares if he needs the weapons to win because he's got them.
All right. Well, I wish we could continue this debate as the season went along, JC, because it's a fun bit for me. For you and I to go back and forth on this because as we've seen without his career, right, there's weeks where his limitations are quite obvious. And then once again, weeks where he looks to be MVP caliber. I mean, he was close to having MVP level numbers last season, and we could have had fun arguing about. I mean, he was top 5 MVP. I mean, he wasn't the MVP. So
led the league in passing. I mean, if they didn't lose, if they win one more of those games at the end of the season, he's probably MVP.
Yeah, and that'd be another thing we'd have fun with on not winning the big games. But now it's a different conversation.
As if the injury wasn't bad enough, then you had everyone throwing out how McDaniel's 1-11 against teams with a winning record.
Right. And we consider him the boy genius, but maybe the real boy genius is over there in Minnesota as we'll get to that game. But I'm disappointed that we're not going to be able to continue this debate because whether or not what we think of Tua, whatever side we're on, right? Obviously, Tyler and I are on one side, which is weird because usually Tyler and I disagree about everything. It's just too bad that it's not going to be settled on the field. And everybody who's a football fan hopes for his recovery, and we'll see what happens next. But Tyler, now we're going to have to dive in and take some accountability to some of our bad calls, and I'll just tee this one right up. We were down on Deshaun Watson, and let's be honest, he didn't play that well. He only threw for 186 yards, didn't have a touchdown pass. I thought the story of that game is Trevor Lawrence. He's going to be a serviceable quarterback, but for what we expected for him coming out of college, we have to say that his play continues to be a disappointment. I mean, I don't know what we can blame it on. He's got the better coaching now. I mean, they're giving him plenty of weapons. I mean, the O-line isn't perfect, but who has a perfect O-line besides Los Angeles Chargers and Detroit Lions, right? So nobody is working with a perfect O-line here. And once again, he looked simply mediocre. He does not look like this generational guy. I mean, maybe it's a Sam Darnold thing where it's going to take him years to figure out. Some of these guys takes a long time, but our hopes of Trevor Lawrence becoming this game-changing quarterback really seem to be evaporating. We talked all offseason doing our best ball shows. This was a make or break for a year. I bought in. Do you know how many Trevor 2 accommodations I have at quarterback? So I'm in trouble.
That's not good.
Yeah, Jaguars look bad. I know the Browns have a great defense, but we saw what Dallas was able to do against that great defense. right? And so for all the hype, he's got to be as good as Dak. And I'm not seeing it so far. I'm here to overreact, but the Jaguars are 0-2, and I'm sure all of Jacksonville is feeling the same way. And let's give the Browns some credit, but I felt that was more of a Jacksonville loss than a Cleveland win. Talk to me about my breakdown. Am I overreacting to another terrible day from Trevor Lawrence?
No, I mean, he's looked terrible, but I think one finger you can point is Doug Peterson, because outside of that 1 year he won the Super Bowl, he's not that good of a coach.
Yeah,
so
I guess
maybe he's been on a coaching carousel for his first couple years, just hasn't been able to get his feet under him. He's got his money already too, so it's going to be tough to tell the kid who's got his money already.
It might be a situation where they're regretting paying this average guy elite money.
The other problems in that game, there was like they're warming up, and all of a sudden Evan Ingram is out, so now you have to change the game plan from there. Christian Kirk is non-existent through 2 weeks. I think he's caught one pass in 2 weeks. He has a total of about 15 yards receiving. Brian Thomas is your best weapon, and he's a rookie. Yeah, he played good in week 1. He didn't do all that good in week 2. Etienne was able to find the end zone in week 2, but I mean, it's just tough. I thought this team was going to be a little bit better, but I think it's just poor coaching, and they probably got to make another change there. So
is it really coaching, or is it just that the players aren't that good, JC?
I mean, it does hurt that receiving-wise, I don't think Lawrence has that good of weapons, but it's embarrassing because they're running the ball really well. So they established a run game, which should make things pretty easy for Trevor Lawrence. And he's still, 14 for 30 is a terrible stat line when you rushed for, over 100 yards. So it's just not looking good. I don't really know how much credit we should give Cleveland because, Miami's defense didn't look great in week 1. And, Cleveland, I didn't watch much of this game, so I don't know, man, if their secondary was just locking down Jacksonville's receivers. But
I did. It was pass rush problem once again, but that's Myles Garrett. But, I keep talking about there's like 10 players that are that level. You're going to go against a dominant pass rusher almost every single week in the NFL. So,
yeah.
Other teams are able to overcome this, right?
Yeah, I definitely don't think this is Cleveland's suddenly a great team. I think they are who we think they are, but I definitely got to downgrade Jacksonville after this week. I thought it would have been an easy win for them for sure.
Yeah, and let's see if they can turn it around. But boy, really disappointing for Jacksonville fans and myself, who I don't know how many Kirk, Trevor Lawrence combinations I built. Ingram, Lawrence, backstacking with Gabe Davis. The offense does not look good, and it was hard to even see like flashes of things getting better. Let's move on, Tyler, to a game that I should have really put my mouth there, because I told all my friends at work, don't bet Indy, but I didn't turn around and bet Green Bay. They ran the ball like 55 times. I don't have the numbers up right now. I think Malik Willis only passed like 14 times. They utterly destroyed him on the ground. And Anthony Richardson is reminding me of one of those NBA players, Tyler, that we watch that has like the best highlights, but only shoots like 33% from the field. He puts up these great plays. He can't make a normal play. Like his normal, he can't throw short or in the middle. It's like bomb or run.
He has no touch to his passes. He tries to sneak the ball and it just floats away from him. He can't throw short. It's literally 70-yard bombs or nothing, or he's got to run the ball. So, their defense is absolutely atrocious. You knew all they could do was run the ball yesterday. Malik Willis can't throw it. Yeah, they could run an RPO. Malik Willis can run away from you. But if you lose the game because Malik Willis ran for 125 yards and a touchdown, I think you'll live with that. And you make sure the guy named Josh Jacobs doesn't beat you, and they let him beat them the entire game. So, I had a little bit of high hopes for the Colts. I thought maybe they could make a little bit of a run in that division and kind of keep up with Houston. But it looks like Houston's going to be in one of the easiest divisions in the league this year, because they're not that all of an impressive 2-0, and everyone else in their division is 0-2. So they have a 2-game lead over the other 3 teams, and I don't see any of those 3 teams coming back and fighting to take that lead from them. So they might just coast the rest of the year and win that division.
For a lot of these young quarterbacks, I think Jordan Love is kind of their only hope, because you remember when we were overreacting last year at this time when we thought Jordan Love was one of those quarterbacks in the league. So maybe he can turn it around, but I'm not seeing anything on the accuracy from Richardson that makes me seem like they're going to get it there. At the same time, it kind of was tough. Everybody expected them to win. And then they did lose to Forrest Buckner, who was a late scratch, their best defensive lineman. Obviously, that hurt them a lot in their inability to stop Josh Jacobs, who carried 32 times for 151 yards. Green Bay gets the win. And all they need to do is tread water, JC, until Jordan Love comes back, and this team's still got a shot. They have to feel good about being able to get this win and avoid falling to 0-2. So the Colts at 0-2, definitely some problems there because he's going to have to get better, and I can't see him get this much better this fast. And the Packers got to be feeling good for being able to get a win without their star quarterback.
Yeah, no, it was, you nailed it. Only 14 attempts from Malik Willis, and how many of those were just kind of like screen passes or something like under 5 yards? They just ran the ball down Indianapolis' throat. All their running backs were getting touches. Josh Jacobs ran the ball 32 times. Their receivers were running the ball. This was some old school football. And, I thought about it before the game, like, you know what, maybe we just target some Josh Jacobs props. But I'm like, no, Indy has to know that's all they have to do is just shut down Josh Jacobs. But he was a problem. Just disgusting. It was one of those bets that felt way too easy, and I should have known better because I did hammer Indianapolis, but they just embarrassed them. So, there's not much to say there. I'm not selling on Indy just yet. Richardson's young. His first few games didn't look great, but yeah, definitely tough, and going to have to think twice before betting Indy again. The only thing I will say about Green Bay, right, the problem is their schedule coming up is they got in Nashville to play Tennessee, home against the Vikings, in LA, and then home against the Cardinals. That is a tough run of games without Jordan Love. So they were able to pull this one off. You might be able to beat the Titans, but there's no way they're going to beat the Vikings without Jordan Love.
Interesting as Tyler was down on the Vikings, but we'll get to that game here in a bit. In the chat, Clyde and our guy Tim are talking about Bryce Young. So that's a perfect segue for me. As Tyler, we should, once again, it was like we talked about all these games. I told you I had a 9-point edge on the Chargers. It was our biggest edge on the projections. We were just fearful that, the Panthers on the road, get back at home. They look a little better. Actually, they looked worse. And as Clyde's put in the chat right before we jumped on, it was announced that Bryce Young is already going to be benched. I'm not against that, actually. Let's find out if he's really that bad, right? Because let's just say Andy Dalton goes out there and they look just as incompetent. Then we know it's a team-wide issue, it's a line issue, skill player issue, defense issue, whatever it is. We don't blame the quarterback. But if Andy Dalton, who right now is basically what you consider an above-average backup, he's definitely not starting caliber, right? He's probably a top 15 backup. So he's probably ranked, 40th in the league quarterback play. If he's able to get this offense to look somewhat competent, then I think they know, hey, maybe it's time that we move on and we made a mistake. And I would say the only thing going for the Panthers is, unlike some of these other teams, like with Trevor, Tua, Daniel Jones, they didn't invest a lot of money. They can just draft his replacement and move on without the salary cap ramifications. However, the most disappointing franchise, this is reminding me of the Browns. Remember when the Browns were really bad under Hugh Jackson? And every week I would listen to these podcasts and the guys that I call pseudo sharps to just take the points every week and think that that's sharp. Oh, the Browns have value, right? And they kept saying there's value in taking all the points against the Patriots, right? And neither one of those bets ever won. I feel like this could be a Panthers thing this year where every week, we're going to listen and these pseudo sharps are going to tell us to take the points with the Panthers. And every week they're just going to look absolutely terrible. Tyler, coming off an 84-yard passing performance, Bryce Young hits the bench. Andy Dalton moves forward. I'm still higher on the Chargers than most. Although, hey, Herbert took an injury in that game, right? So we got to find out about that too. People are getting beat up left and right. I think that the players, I'm rambling a lot, but I'll get to you guys. The Players Association made a mistake by bringing back this practice time. I think they go from 0 to 100 too quick, from just going through these walkthroughs and shorts to just getting hit at full speed by guys on steroids. I think they need more practice time because their bodies definitely aren't ready. Just like in boxing, you need to spar. to be ready for a fight. And I just don't think these guys' bodies are ready. So, Tyler, I've thrown a bunch out there, but the main thing I want to hear about is your thoughts on Bryce Young being replaced. And do you expect that Andy Dalton will make this team look reasonable, or is this Panthers team just a lost cause and start looking ahead to the draft already?
I think I can confidently say it's the worst football team I've ever seen play in my life.
Worse than that Browns team?
Yes. They have nothing on defense. Like every run the Chargers had was just a free 6 to 7 yards. Like Dobbins had his way.
The Chargers might have the second best O-line in the league, though.
But still, you shouldn't get 7 yards a carry.
Okay, fair enough.
They have Derek Brown's their only piece on defense that's good. He's out for the year. Mm-hmm. They legit have nothing. Like I know we call them a JV NFL team, and that's literally what they might be. I understand why they benched Bryce Young in this spot because one, you're 0-2, your season's slipping away from you. Week 1 was not his fault. They were just he was under duress. He's pressured. There's nothing there. But this week, he was only pressured on 5 out of 35 dropbacks, and he threw for 84 yards. Something's wrong there, and I think he might just be broken. I mean, for a guy in college that never relied on his pure athleticism, like he wasn't some freak athlete just dominating college football. He was actually audibling plays at the line, being able to see what was going on and slicing up defenses. To just all of a sudden have no confidence, he just throws the ball away fast. I think they broke him last year. I think they mentally broke him physically. He just has nothing left. So I could see Dalton stepping in there and winning a game or two. Like, who do they play this upcoming week? I think they have a nice matchup.
They play us.
Yeah, like that is such a game. That is such a game Carolina could roll in there, new quarterback in there.
Oh,
they win the game 17-13, and everyone's blaming Bryce for everything.
That's a tough D-line to go up against in his first start. JC, your thoughts against the as the Carolina Panthers switch their quarterback and look absolutely terrible.
Bryce Young is not the problem. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, he's definitely not the answer, but I don't think he's the problem. I think there's a decent skill set there. I mean, how many times did he escape a sack just to get sacked again? Like he has the tools. I don't know if he'll ever be able to put them together. I don't know if he just needs the weapons. I don't know if it's the coaching. I don't know if he just, isn't an NFL quarterback. But to put this on Bryce Young is just ridiculous. This team as a whole is terrible. I don't think they're the worst team we've ever seen. I think there's some Lions teams and Browns teams that have been far worse, but it's certainly going to be an ugly season for the Panthers. And, I don't know how Dalton makes this better. Maybe you find the end zone one more time. Maybe he can make a smart play or two, but it's just, it's putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, putting Andy Dalton in there.
All right, let's just say we log off this show. You jump on Twitter/X, you see Bryce Young traded to the Dolphins for a second-round 2025 pick. How would you feel?
I'd be okay with that. I mean, especially
Really?
A second-round pick. Especially, I really do trust Mike McDaniel, so if he thinks that's a good option, it definitely holds more, that weighs in some. But I think there's potential with him.
I'd be curious if they put him on the market right now, what he would fetch.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be really interesting to know.
Could get him for that. That would be ideal for Miami.
I really wonder what other teams, what their outlook on him is.
I think that's what really, because those guys know so much more than we do, right? It's easy for us. I mean, it's so funny when I'm watching Sunday now because you get used to watching the all 22 format, and it's like Mahomes drops back. I don't even know where he's throwing the ball, right? I'm like, watch Kelsey, and then Kelsey's off the screen, I'd be interested to see what people who really understand X's and O's, because all I understand is creating numbers and exploiting lines. I don't understand. Really, I'm like, I want to sit here. You need to stop playing cover 3, right? I just listen to what those guys say. I'd really be curious. So lost in all this, Tyler, the Harbaugh Chargers jump out to 2-0. And I know everybody thinks they suck because we play fantasy all summer. And let's be honest, those aren't impressive players except for J.K. Dobbins, who's going to break the leagues now. He's going to be this year's Kyron Williams, it looks like. But what are your thoughts on the Chargers, man? I think this team is really good. I think that the way that they dominate the ball up front, they're going to be in every single game. And now I thought they were going to go under 8 wins because of the lack of continuity with Herbert. But the way they control the line of scrimmage, this looks like a 10-win team to me, and it seems to me I can pencil them second in the AFC West, and they will be in the playoffs. Do you agree, Tyler?
I guess I see a little bit more out of him before I pencil him in for 10 wins. I mean, you beat up on the Panthers. What did he do? Like, I feel like everybody in the league could do that.
Okay, but you beat a Raiders team that just beat the Ravens.
Yeah, but it wasn't all
you
that.
You dominated the line of scrimmage in both games.
It wasn't like the Raiders went out there and just dominated Baltimore. Baltimore fell asleep at the wheel, and the Raiders stole it in the end.
All right, well, we'll get to that game in a bit. JC, your thoughts on the Chargers? If I set the over-under line, if we already know they're 2-0, 10 wins, would you go over or under, man? I think this offensive line is underrated, and Harbaugh's ability to get these guys up for a game is completely underrated.
I think 10 is completely fair. I don't know. I mean, honestly, they kind of feel like the Chargers teams with Phillip Rivers. They feel like a good team, but it feels like they're not going to get over the
Except
hump.
They're well coached.
I was going to say, unless Harbaugh can be that difference maker, that when they get to the playoffs, he can, be that extra push. But from what we see them as a team, they're not better than the Chiefs, right? Like,
okay, but the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL.
For sure, but I'm just saying, right, that's who they got to go up against. I don't think they're better than, I don't think they're top team in the AFC. Are they a playoff team? Yes, but not much more than that.
Think they're better than Baltimore?
I think it'd be a close game. Like, I think it's like a -3, but I'd take Baltimore.
Think they're better than Cincinnati?
I don't know what to make of Cincinnati. I mean, on Thursday I told you I think Cincinnati's overrated at this point. They're not better than
Cincinnati.
I don't know.
They literally can only run the ball.
That's all they're going to need to do.
What happened?
That's all the Niners did when he took them to 13-3 with Alex Smith that one year.
Okay, but what happens when they fall behind in a game? What happens when Joey Bosa hits the injury report because
they
he's
still have an elite quarterback? I mean, they might be able.
They have no weapons.
Some comebacks. Quentin Johnson looked pretty good.
Yeah. Good luck with that all year.
All right, Tyler, at least we're back in our groove here, disagreeing about almost everything. Here's something else that we could disagree about, Tyler, as the top tight end in the league by receiving yards, Brock Bowers, the number one tight end in the league when it comes to receiving yards right now, leads the Las Vegas Raiders. The coach from Compton gets his comeback. He was aggressive on 4th down in a play that I actually disagreed with. And I thought it was over for us at that point. They switched to completely passing. They've abandoned the run game. They can't run block up front. They miss Josh Jacobs dearly. I thought Zamir White was going to be the answer. For a guy that ran a 4.4, he looks slow. So this guy doesn't have the speed and pads. Madison actually looks to be the better back. I saw Amir Abdullah out there. That was worrisome. But Devontae Adams showed why if he had a better quarterback, we'd still talk about him. And the Justin Jefferson and the A.J. Browns and the Jamar Chase and the best receivers in the league, as he was making elite plays all over the field. And Jim Harbaugh blows another 10-point lead. The reason they brought in Derrick Henry was to avoid blowing these leads. And there was one drive where it was happening, and I go, oh, we're done. Once Derrick, defense is tired, Derrick Henry's rolling. But the Raiders were able to come back and turn it around. And I'll tell you what, as a Raiders fan, it just really felt like this win kind of saved our season. We were really pessimistic now. Now we should get a win over Carolina next week. So things are feeling good for us here in Raiderland. After, if you guys watched last week, I was ready to throw this team into the toilet. So Tyler, I'm sure you're ready to douse some cold water on me and downplay this beautiful, inspirational, wonderful win by the coach from Compton and the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, kudos for your win, but I feel like it's more of a Ravens loss than a Raiders win. I mean, you talked about it. Derrick Henry, 4th quarter. He had that drive where he scored the touchdown, and it looked like that game was going to be over. They're up 10. You want to know how many more times he touched the ball the rest of the game? 1 time.
Yeah, that was weird.
You had the 10-point lead. Even if they go out and they score or they kick a field goal that next drive, so they're still down 7. Why does he only touch the ball 1 time on that ensuing drive? I get it. Maybe Lamar wants to keep one and run it, but why are we throwing the ball? Run the ball, chew the clock, and do what you put in these situations. We've seen them do it last year. They had a huge lead on a Miami team, and Miami came storming back in that game and beat Baltimore. They had a couple other games. I believe it was a Colts game they lost similarly last year too. So they always do this. They get up a nice lead, and it seems like they just take their foot off the wheel. And they're just like, all right, we're done here. Like, we'll see if you can come back in the time we have left in this game. If you do, you win the game. If you don't, we're just going to walk away with a nice win. So I don't know what it is. They used to never do this. They used to just pound teams into the ground, but it seems like they don't have that in them anymore.
I mean, Tyler, one of the reasons we faded them in week 1 was because of the deficiencies on the offensive line. And I think that those were quite obvious today, as Max Crosby was actually made to look average against Joe Alt, went back to be his absolutely dominating self. Maybe that's the reason they went away from the run, is this line, for the style of football and the personality that they have, they just don't have the pieces on the offensive line. JC, of course, we can say, oh, whoop-de-doo, they lost to the Chiefs in week 1. We don't want to downgrade them. And as much as I'm loving this Raiders win, and I don't know if I want to just say that the Ravens lost the game, because Devontae Adams had some beautiful catches. Obviously, I watched every play. I mean, the toe touch to get a first down when he got loose in the end zone. Those are plays that probably only 10 wide receivers in the league can make. And Bauer's ability, and this is why I was so high on him in best ball, he's just a matchup nightmare. And not only that, he's smart. So he's finding the holes in the zone when you don't go man-to-man on him. When they switched to all passing and they just gave up on that weak, decrepit run game, the Raiders look pretty good. But obviously, we're going to have to downgrade the Ravens. I mean, for me, I was a little higher on the Raiders in the market, so I'm leaving them the same for me. But how much do we downgrade the Ravens off this? Because as much as I want to say the Raiders are great, the Raiders are awesome, we got to be fair. This is a disappointing loss for Baltimore in a game that they should not have lost.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give credit to the Raiders for getting it done. I mean, I think they're going to be a scrappy, competitive team. I don't know what their ceiling is, but they're definitely going to cause some problems for some teams.
Maybe 9 wins?
I don't know. I was just pulled up their schedule, man. I mean, they got the Panthers, the Browns, the Broncos, the Steelers. And then it gets a little bit tougher, but I mean, that should put them at 4-1. So, you know, like I said, I don't know what their ceiling is, because their schedule gets a lot tougher after that. Probably in the 9-10 wins category. They may be a playoff team, and they also might pull off an upset or two. I mean, you know, they could beat the Chiefs one of those games. I don't know how tough Cincinnati or Miami is going to be for them. So it's certainly potential. I'm reserving my opinions on the Raiders. I don't know what to make of them yet, but I won't be betting against them. I'm probably going to lay some bets for them in this stretch they got coming up. As for the Ravens, I don't think it's – go ahead.
I was just saying, for the Raiders, I wonder if Pearson's going to end up being like Tomlin and Vrabel, where we'll only play him as a dog. Right? You know how we love Tomlin and Vrabel as a dog, and then they struggle as favorites? I'm wondering if they're going to be like that. But talk to me about the Ravens, because that's where I think the real adjustment needs to be made.
I don't think it's anything crazy, right? They lose 2 games very close. I mean, likely toes are in bounds. They win that game. I don't know what happened on the last play of this game, because it looked like Lamar Jackson had 6. I don't know if he just ran out of juice and that's why he lateraled it, but it seemed like he could have hit that seam and went all the way to the end zone.
Can you imagine how devastated I'd be today if that happened?
Oh man, I mean, holy cow! Though the start of that run, I mean, he was shot.
I was scared.
Cannon.
Yeah.
Oh, that boy can move. So I don't think it's anything crazy. Some adjustments certainly need to be made. I'm not downgrading the Ravens. I'm not taking them if I got to lay a lot of points for sure, but I don't think there's any reason to overreact on the Baltimore side.
Who wins more
I
games?
just think the reason is the line is so bad.
Between who, Tyler?
Who wins more games, the Chargers or the Ravens?
Without looking at their schedule, I would say the Ravens.
I would say the Chargers. The Chargers' schedule is so easy.
I don't know. I mean, maybe the Ravens. Yeah, I don't know how hard.
I don't give a
damn
about the schedule.
Yeah, they have a 4th place schedule. Go look at who they play. It's bad. It's an easy schedule.
Well, the Raiders are laying 6 against Carolina.
I'll probably take that. JC, if you can you pull up the Charger schedule real quick? Just
I'm
to
doing it
kind of
right now.
illustrate
Yep,
my
I got
point?
it. So they got in Pittsburgh, home against the Chiefs, in Denver, in Arizona, home against the Saints, in Cleveland, home against the Titans, home against the Bengals, home against the Ravens, in Atlanta, in Kansas City, home against the Bucks, home against the Broncos, in New England, in Vegas. That's a tough schedule.
Actually, that's not as easy as I thought.
That's a tough schedule.
Maybe it's because some of those teams that I thought were going to be, like the Saints and the Bucks look like tougher games than we thought when we were having this
Titans, that's probably going to be
conversation.
tougher than you probably would have initially thought.
Yeah, we're going to talk about them coming up. But Tyler, first of all, 69 people watching. Nice. Give it that thumbs up. This is the FanSpeak Network, FanSpeak channel on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel as we continue. Tyler and I will be back tomorrow giving out our best bets because I know we're going to bounce back. And then, of course, Justin and Andrew will give us the Battle Royale content. Steve and Meg will be doing Sibling Showdown. So from DFS to bets, we got you covered when it comes to NFL. Fanspeak.com. Tyler, I have not been able to victory lap on you at all today except for this one. And just allow me this because I know I've heard all season about how terrible that Derek Carr is. And you wanted Spencer Rattler. Not so fast, my friend. Carr was delivering beautiful balls on the deep balls. He put it right in position for Olave. Shaheed once again looking like a best ball darling. You're picking him in the hundreds. He goes 4 receptions, 96 yards, 1 TD. Alvin Kamara broke the slate. You needed him in there if you wanted to win on weekly winners or if you played just the Sunday slate. I'm not surprised the Saints covered. We disagreed on that one. I won the +6. You wanted Dallas. Full disclosure, I did put my money where my mouth is, though. I didn't make the bet. But for the Saints to win like this, we got to give them credit, right? We got to upgrade this team. We got to say, hey, there was that guy, Pete Carmichael, running that outdated Sean Payton offense last year. Now we got the modern Shanahan offense with some guy named Kubiak. I don't even know which one it is. But they're all, Kubiak and Shanahan are essentially synonyms at this point. So we got the new modern offense that everybody loves. It's quarterback friendly. Carr is excelling. Talk to me about the New Orleans Saints, Tyler.
They could win every game this year like this, and I still wouldn't think they're good.
No way.
I do not think this team is good. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I watch them play, and I still don't think they're good. I do not trust Derek Carr to keep this up.
Okay, let's take away the offense. You got to admit that defense is good.
Defense looked all right, but when you were playing with,
you
were already
playing with
a huge lead.
Yeah,
we'll see. But I mean, I'm not sold on this team. Like this has the makings of like, oh, they got the 3-0. They dominated the first 3 weeks, and somehow, some way, they are 3-7, and they've fallen to the bottom of the NFC South. So
at least I know we're going to be arguing all season long because I don't know how you can't give these guys credit.
buy in. I will never buy in on a Dennis Allen led team to be a good football team.
I mean, it could be one of those things where now he can just step back. If he has Kubiak running the offense, he doesn't even step in that room and he just becomes a defensive coordinator, which we know he was a good defensive coordinator because when he was Sean Payton's DC, he did fantastic. And way back when, before he was the Raiders coach, he was a good DC back in 2005 or whatever. I don't know, man. I don't think you're giving this team credit. JC, help me shine some light on Tyler.
I will never give them credit.
I mean, this was an Alvin Kamara game. Like, we've been waiting, 2-3 seasons now for Kamara to be like what he was back in, what would that have been, 2019?
Dude, he made the Cowboys look like some patriot outside of a Vegas nightclub.
Right. No, yes. But again, one game after, 2-3 seasons of mediocrity out of him, like, we can't just suddenly say the Saints are back because Kamara had one good game. And that's what it was. I mean, yes, 243 yards.
Can we say the Saints are back because they're finally running a modern offense, though?
No, because, again, Derek Carr, he only threw the ball 16 times. Yes,
but he had 243 yards with 16 times. So what's that yards per attempt?
No, for sure. That's an impressive stat line to have 243 yards, but still, he only completed 11 of 16 passes. So to say he's some stud guy, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys have
throw numbers out. Watch the tape. The pass to Shaheed couldn't have been better. The pass to Olave couldn't have been better. I mean, what do you want from the guy?
He's a professional quarterback. He should be able to make some nice passes.
We've seen
Dallas
about 5 or
secondary.
6 professional quarterbacks that simply could not last week.
I mean, Dallas secondary looks pretty
Tell that
garbage.
to Anthony Richardson.
And the Cowboys have been a schizophrenic franchise for so long. Like I don't, just because they beat the Cowboys, I don't think that's anything we need to overreact to.
All right.
We also had no real read on how good the Dallas defense actually was, because kudos, you stopped Deshaun Watson in week 1. We see
Right.
how bad that offense looks.
And would anyone be surprised if Dallas went like 7-10 this year?
Yes.
Right. Like,
Not,
I mean, like, yeah, it would
no,
be
not really.
Because they have
Right.
too many games against the Giants and the Commanders.
I'm just like, it's one of they're a team that is just are liable to implode at any point in time. And how many years has it been? Like, no one would be surprised if they were 10-7 or 7-10. Like, it could go anywhere. So I'm not just because Kamara had a good game. I have nothing. I'm not going in the extra mile for the Saints.
Well,
Who
at
do they
least
play
I'm
this
living
week
up to
coming
the
up?
title of the show and overreacting to what we saw, because you guys are just
This coming week, even though it's in the dome, so it'll be loud. This is the test.
Who do they play?
Philadelphia. We know
point.
Philadelphia is good. We know that team is solid.
Oh, I mean, let's wait and see what Philly does tonight. If they go and win by touchdown or more, like they should, I will hammer Philly -2.
Yeah, Philly -2 will be a gift next week if they do what they're
You
supposed
guys
to
are tripping.
do tonight. Your Derek Carr
All
love
right.
is showing.
Yeah, it
Which is
is.
crazy.
I should have worn something sleeveless right now. All right. Well, this is Overreaction Monday, and at least we're getting some good. You can't say that we disagree with each other, right? Skip Bayless would be proud. Let's continue. Let's talk about Meg's favorite team. If they got the win, this is one I'm happy I laid off of Tyler, because I kind of thought the Giants might get the win here. The Giants have the worst secondary in the league. Daniel Jones got 2 touchdowns there. Did the Commanders even score a touchdown?
No, you
Did they
didn't
get
see the
7
stat line on
field
this game.
goals?
No.
They
You
got
didn't see
7
the stat
field
line
goals,
on this
right?
game. First time in NFL history, a team has scored 3 touchdowns, allowed 0 touchdowns, and lost in regulation.
Oh my god.
God.
What would be what's worse, like being a Panthers fan or being a Giants fan?
Panthers.
I mean, if we're talking like right now,
I don't know, because the Giants got teased with that wild card win like 2 years ago, and now they're never going to see that again.
Yeah,
I
but
was gonna
okay,
say,
here's what they do. They get rid of Daniel Jones. They got Malik Neighbors, who could be like a top 5
but
guy.
what are you
they
doing
have
with
all-
that
they have all-
salary?
What do the Panthers have?
Yeah,
But
no money
they're
invested in
paying-
anyone.
Yeah. Like I said, like for this season, yeah, it's probably worse to be a Panthers fan, but looking like the next 3 years, probably rather be a Panthers
Like
fan.
at least if somebody in that Carolina building goes up to the owner, gives him a slap across the face to bring him back to reality, and tells him to stand down and hire guys to fix his team, they could fix it very quickly.
Right.
The Giants have to clear contracts, let the salary cap penalties wear off, and then try and redo everything. And nobody wants to play for the Giants. I can tell you right now, they're going to pick top 3, and they're going to want Deion's kid, and Deion's going to tell him he's not playing for the Giants.
I don't want Deion's kid.
I wouldn't want Deion's kid either, but
Mm-mm.
I think he's
Oh,
a
you wanna know
solid
how things
player,
get
but he's
even
bringing
worse
a
for the
lot of
I think that
Giants?
guys.
kid from Georgia is going to be awesome, but I said that about Bryce Young 2 years ago, so take that with a grain of salt.
And how things were even worse for the Giants is Gano got injured, I think, on the kickoff.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And so that's why they, only put up 18 because they didn't have a kicker to put up the extra points. But where it gets really worse is he hurt his hamstring on the kickoff. Saturday in practice, he sustained a groin injury. So they knew they were going into Sunday's game with a gimpy kicker, and they had a roster spot available. They went into that game with a 52-man roster. They could have added a backup kicker. But they
Remember
didn't.
2 years ago when Daboll was the coach of the year?
And they won a
So
wild
it's
card
just-
game?
Is that like when do you remember when the guy from the Toronto Raptors won the coach of the year and got fired?
Yes. Yes,
Dwayne
exactly.
Casey.
And he got fired before he won the award.
Yeah.
They say, here's your award. Get out.
All right, man. 2 weeks in a go. 2 weeks in a row, Tyler. The Tennessee Titans should be called the Tennessee Teasers because they keep teasing me, man. I thought the Jets were the wrong side here. Now I didn't put any money behind it, and I would have been more pissed off like I was last week talking about the Titans blowing it. But Will Levis, I mean, it's like almost like Bryce Young is like smoke screening us from how bad this guy is. Once again, he completely gives the go ahead. I mean, I got nothing else to say. If you guys watched, you saw what happens, and I want to get your thoughts on Rodgers and the Jets. But let's bash Will Levis here real quick.
Bash him.
I want to bash him, but
go ahead.
I want to bash him, but I mean, the memes he comes up with week by week are some of the best ones. Week 1, we get him on his knees with his hands on his head like this. And then this week, when he does the fumble, he is fully horizontal with the field trying to pitch it like this. And it's just like, even the coach in the middle of the game walked out and took his headset off.
What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, we are definitely going to see Mason Rudolph in that offense at some point this year. But Levis does dumb things. He does dumb things, and then the next play, he's launching a 60-yard bomb to Calvin Ridley for a touchdown when Sauce Gardner has a blanket coverage on him. So it makes no sense. But
I mean, he's White Anthony Richardson. What do you think, JC?
I'm not ready to sell on Will Levis. I think
Really?
Yeah. No. I mean,
you're talking about buy low.
I do think he has like a Tannehill level ceiling. Ironically, like I think it's a perfect comparison. I think he can be serviceable. I think he's making mistakes that inexperienced quarterbacks make. I don't think it's an overall reflection of his talent. I mean, like he looked stupid on a couple of plays, but I definitely think there's some potential there. I think he showed that this game. I mean, they had a chance on that drive. A stupid play on him, and I think a penalty really held them back. Yeah, the sack. I think he took a sack. That sack really took away the real shot they had to win the game. But even still, I mean, the last play looked like he had a chance there at the end zone. So I don't think they're a great team. Probably not going to make the playoffs, but I think they're going to cause troubles for some of the opponents they face. I think if you can catch them with like a 7-10 points, that's the type of team I'm going to be looking at, especially given all the talent around him. As for the Jets, though, I am so happy that, the Jets are who we think they are. They're not nearly as bad. I was really hoping for a full-on crash and burn, but they are mediocre. Aaron Rodgers is not the guy he once was.
No, it's not even close, and that's what I want to get to now.
Yeah.
First of all, Meg says, see that I'm super skeptical on rookie QBs. Rookies are always terrible their first 2 games, and we're just kind of having fun with it right now. I still have high hopes for this class. Especially Mr. Jaden Daniels there, Meg. So, but let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. JC, I'm going to go back to you first because you were already kind of going into it. But I just wanted to point out that I mean, he's serviceable because we've seen some absolutely terrible QB play, and he's definitely an upgrade from last year. But I don't think that we're never going to get the guy that we saw in Green Bay. He's not going to get back to MVP level. And I don't think this team is a Super Bowl team. I think they're 9-8, right? I mean, they're going to get some wins. They have a good defense, great running back room. Braylon Allen 2 touchdowns. But talk to me about what you saw from Aaron Rodgers, and I talk about these rookie QBs getting better. Do you think that maybe Aaron Rodgers just needs some more time, or is this just the best we're going to get out of him?
No, I think this is what he is. I mean, he's still probably top 20. Maybe he's cracking the top 15 quarterback, right? Like he's still one of the better options, but he's not an MVP caliber quarterback. He's not a top 5 guy. He is not going to take your team to the next level, right? There's enough talent on the team, as you said, that will, maybe they're going to be around 500, especially playing in that division. But they're just, he's not what the Jets thought they were getting. It feels it's a little bit better than when they had Favre, but it's right there. Their hopes were prime Aaron Rodgers, and everybody else seemed to knew that that's not what they were getting, and that's what we've seen through 2 weeks.
And Clyde disagrees with me about Aaron Rodgers, so I feel even better about that take now. Meg's still pounding the drum. They should have traded back. Meg, don't want to upset you, but I did read that the Raiders did offer a lot because Pierce really wanted Jaden Daniels, and you guys said no. So it's not like you didn't have the opportunity. I don't know, though. I might disagree with you. I think I'd rather have the quarterback and then just continue to build. Because you'll get a you'll get another top pick. You can start to build that line, and at least you have the quarterback in place. Otherwise, you're like the Raiders, where we have this great team, but we just have no quarterback. But we're not going to be able to draft one because we're not ever going to be top 5, right? So, obviously we have a different opinion on team building. Tyler, talk to me about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, doesn't look like the guy in Green Bay. Their offense is literally 3 guys. It's the 2 running backs and Hall and Allen, and it's Garrett Wilson. Like, yeah, Lazard caught 2 touchdowns in week 1, but he's not going to be a factor every week. Mike Williams is on a huge snap count that he's playing like 15 snaps a game, if that. So it's tough for this offense. They don't have many weapons. It's very one-dimensional, basically. You know what's coming on the offensive side. Their defense is giving up a ton of yards, too. Like, this defense was supposed to be one of the better ones in the league. They were able to play defense with the best of them last year when they had no offense. And now it seems like they're just losing a step. And now their offense is going to have to step it up and play better. But, I mean, I don't think he's terrible. I think he could win a playoff game. If the defense gets back to the level they were playing last year, then they become a threat to make it all the way, I think. Because then you don't need that much on offense. We know how these playoff games play. If that defense gets back to that high level of play, and Breece Hall can run the ball, they're going to be a tough out for anyone.
And for whatever reason, defense doesn't always be consistent year to year like offense was. I mean, we can almost always pencil in Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes to lead themselves to elite offenses. And some of it could just be playmaking. Like, for example, there was a couple plays, and I'm going back to my win that I love so much, where the Ravens played fine defense and Devontae Adams just made like unbelievable plays. Even though the defense was dialed up right. So, of course, that randomness is there. But, yeah, I mean, the Jets are cool. I mean, I still think they're live. They could beat anyone any week. Like you said, they can win a playoff game. But I think that the idea of them making it to the Super Bowl in a conference that has Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, at the time, Miami was pretty good. I still think it's a little bit far-fetched, like unless you said – this defense does rebound. Another thing to talk about on that defense, a little bit of injuries, right? They're not 100%. They have lost a bunch of defensive linemen. And I think they traded for Hassan Reddick, and he's still not playing. So that has to be considered a mistake at this point to give up a draft pick and then not have him under contract. I mean, before you make these trades, you usually reach out to the agents. And for them to be this far apart, really seems silly because I wonder, with him being out there, how much different we'll be talking about this team. Because like you said, if it was an elite defense, it might be enough. And Champy's talking about the Cardinals. We're going to get to them real quick. Let's finish up the morning slate, and then we'll get to that game. Tyler, this is one of the ones where the line move killed us. It ended up closing at 3. We laid it at 3.5. It lands on 3. Patriots did a good job stopping the run. There was no Kenneth Walker, which we didn't know at the time that we placed the bet. And I think Charbonnet is good, but I think Walker's really top 5. Geno Smith looked good when they actually put it in the air. Big game for JSN. Tyler Lockett's not huge statistically, but it seemed like all of his catches came on important third downs. And DK Metcalf finally gets in the end zone with the big game. I really didn't have much to take away from this game. The Seahawks go on the road. It was a tough spot, cross-country trip, playing in the morning. They get the win. I'm sure that's all that matters. They improved to 2-0. But the Patriots, who had the lowest regular season win total going into the year, they didn't look that bad. So they're 1-1 now, but they have to be feeling pretty good about their ability to defend. We thought that maybe losing Belichick, that this defense would fall off. I would say it's about the same as last year. Give credit to the Seahawks for moving the ball through the air. But that seems it's going to be the only way to beat the Patriots is their run defense was stout. Talk to me about what you saw in the Seahawks and the Patriots, and I'm still lamenting that we didn't wait and place that bet a little later in the league.
Yeah, I mean, it was a weird spot. Once Kenneth Walker was ruled out, I did not like the spot anymore. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things about what happens when you make the plays on Tuesday. So it is what it is. I don't think I'm going to be fading New England much anymore, but I'm not going to be betting with them. I just think they're a lot friskier of a team than we thought. They're going to keep these games close. They have a decent secondary, two pieces in Jones and Gonzalez. They're just a tough out, it seems like. They're going to play good defense. They're going to be able to run the ball with Stevenson. Henry looks like one of the top tight ends in the league right now. So, I mean, when they're under a touchdown, they're going to be a frisky team. I'll say that.
Yeah, we might have to talk about that.
Them.
You know, I have so many elite tight end builds, and it looks like zero tight end was the way to go this year because none of these elite tight ends are paying off. I mean, you would have been way better off just stacking up receivers and grabbing Hunter Henry, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about a little bit. I'll bring him back on. Hopefully he can get back on here real quick. I'm gonna like the Patriots plus the point next week against the Jets. What do you think?
I don't know yet.
It's plus 6.5 in New York on Thursday night.
I gotta look a little bit more.
Okay, I'm just telling you that's so. I mean, this is a great point, Meg. Just think this is why so many rookies are set up to fail. Teams that are set with rookie QBs are the ones that can find later round QBs like Hurts, Dak, Cousins, Prime Russ, and Purdy, best example. I guess my only counter would be of all those names you mentioned, we have one Super Bowl win. Right?
Weren't all those guys were drafted to be backups though, and they lucked into the job via injuries. Like Hurts was there to back up.
Yeah, even Russ. Remember? Do you remember Matt Flynn was supposed to be the starter because he took over?
Dak.
It might have even been Favre back then.
Dak took over for Romo when Romo broke his back, and they still wanted to bring Romo back and bench Dak. Cousins was backed up to
supposed
RG3.
To be Carson Wentz's backup. Cousins was drafted behind RG3.
And Purdy was Trey Lance's backup when Trey Lance was Jimmy G's backup.
Yeah.
So
good point.
I think a lot of that's just luck.
Well, yeah, because you're just going to a terrible team, and usually a hallmark of a terrible team is I talk about it all the time, right? Games won at the line of scrimmage, and usually you're terrible because you can't block. And so these teams go to these places with terrible offensive lines, and it's so funny. Keg's spot on about almost everything, but I can't believe he had the Bears' offensive line rated so high, and we're going to get to that game in a little bit. But that line is terrible. That line is terrible. I don't know.
Just to go back through those list of names, because how you're saying you're usually drafted to a bad offensive line in a bad system.
Yeah.
Hurts was drafted to a team that won a Super Bowl in the last 2 years when he showed up in Philly. Mm-hmm. Dak was behind that great Dallas offensive line that Zeke ran for a shit ton of yards behind in his rookie year. Mm-hmm. Cousins was behind a bad offensive line because they got RG3 killed also. Mm-hmm. And then Russ was a part of a 4-year draft process for Seattle where they literally hit on every pick.
Yeah, and that's because Pete Carroll comes straight from scouting the Pac-10, and so he was just crushing on his 3rd and 4th round.
Yeah, he knew all those guys in the Pac-10, Pac-12, whichever one it was back then, because now it's the Pac-2.
No, we got 6 teams now. We're going to get Boise State. We're going to get Colorado State, San Diego State.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh,
the Pac-6.
No. Chiefs are awesome. We're not going to discount the Chiefs, Meg. Flynn,
that horseshoe must be named Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. All right. Will remind me to put JC's best bet up earlier or later. All right, Tyler. San Francisco 49ers once again failed in New England. You thought Sam Darnold was terrible. I told you he's serviceable. You got to give me credit. He's serviceable. What a play he threw to Justin Jefferson, and maybe it just takes a while for these guys to develop. Your thoughts and how do we adjust these teams moving forward?
San Francisco hasn't won in Minnesota in 32 years.
Yeah.
That is a wild stat. I will agree with you to a point. Darnold is serviceable for now. We seen this in Carolina a few years ago where he got the start and he started off 3-0 and everyone's like, oh, well, they seem to have fixed Sam Darnold. And he was benched by week 7. So I think there's a chance you see kind of the same thing here. Their defense is what won in this San Francisco game. I know Jefferson had the big play down the field, was like a 98-yard touchdown. But even Brock Purdy went up the floor after the game and he said right up the floor, he goes, "You run a hell of a scheme. I was in shambles out there, and you've seen it. He threw a couple picks. They weren't able to move the ball that well. And Minnesota was able to get out with a win. I don't think his team could make any noise in the playoffs. I think they are pretty much the same exact Minnesota team that lost to the Giants in that wild card game a few years ago, even with Darnold at the quarterback.
But for a team that had a win total of 5 or 6 wins, you got to consider this a win for the season, right?
Oh, it's definitely a win, but I'm not upgrading them a ton.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to continue to upgrade them. I think they're good, well coached on both sides of the ball, and I think they're better than the sum of their parts. Jefferson showed once again why he's a top 5 wide receiver in the league, and that's one of those things that I think that can make even a mediocre quarterback look a lot better, right? And so Ty Chandler, our best ball darling, he looked to be taking over the job there. Aaron Jones, I think he had a fumble, and then we saw Chandler get some more carries. So Kevin O'Connell, the name right, he's living up to his preseason coach speak index of saying that it was going to be a split backfield, which is one of the reasons we did like Ty Chandler with one of those later round picks. And I think that Flores is doing a great job with his defense and needs to be up there with the top defensive coordinators in the league. So I'm also not ready to downgrade the Niners, although Kittle and Bosa both went out of the game with injuries, especially Kittle. Especially Bosa. That could be a huge loss. And Kittle, I think, as well, because we saw the 49ers having problems with pass protection, and we know that Kittle's the best blocking tight end in the league that's actually like a receiving threat, not just one of the pure blocking tight ends, right? McCaffrey's already out. Now we're losing 2 more potential stars. Maybe the 49ers, right? This could be the year that Super Bowl hangover catches up with them. What do you think? What are your expectations for the 49ers going on?
I mean, I think they'll be a playoff team. It all comes down to CMC once he gets back. If CMC comes back and he's 3/4 of what he was last year and they can give him a bunch of touches, I mean, they could be right back in the Super Bowl picture. But no CMC, I don't think they can beat the likes of Detroit in the NFC. So, and I'm not even sure Detroit's the best team in the NFC right now.
That's funny because last week we were ready to crown Detroit as the best team in the NFC, ready to take over for the Super Bowl, and they lose to Baker Mayfield and the Bucs. And I was going to victory lap. Remember, I said the Saints were going to win the NFC South, and you like the Buccaneers. I was watching the Saints game thinking I'm going to be able to victory lap this, but not so fast because the Buccaneers got, to me, a more impressive win. I mean, I'm maybe not as low on Dallas as you guys, but I was higher on Detroit than I was Dallas. And the Buccaneers go in there and get that win. I know they only put up 20 points, but Baker looked good when it mattered. Chris Godwin had a nice game. Man, you got to give this team credit. Todd Bowles really knows how to put pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, he definitely knows how to put pressure on a quarterback. I didn't have many eyes on this game. I was just kind of score watching it. They were able to run the ball. Detroit seemed like it a little good. Tampa Bay did have the couple.
Detroit didn't run at all. Goff threw 55 times.
Or maybe those were pass catches I was catching from Gibbs on red zone then. But yeah, I mean, Detroit, let's see how they play after their best year and forever last year, because it seems like they're coming out a little slow. And I just got to see them play more. I don't have really much of a take on this game, so I didn't watch much of it.
Yeah, I watched a lot. My take was that Ben Johnson got a little bit too cute. And it was funny because my new favorite YouTube channel, John Gruden, has a YouTube channel. And a lot of it's just like what he would do on TV, where he just names all the players and talks about like their good attributes. But one thing he said, if I was scheming against this Bucs team right now, I would be throwing the ball a lot. And so I think Ben Johnson saw those same things with the weakened secondary, right? And that was the reason we were targeting this game in DFS for the weekly DFS, was all those injuries to the Tampa Bay secondary. But they throw 55 times. It was simply too much. Maybe the Lions got away from what they do best, especially watching how capable they were running the ball against the Rams last week. Speaking of their ability to run the ball against the Rams, it looks like that overtime loss took everything out of Los Angeles. That was by far my worst call of the week. I was touting the Rams all week. I love Stafford. I love McVay. I wasn't necessarily too hype on Kyler, and I think that sometimes I take some of his dumb quotes too far. because he pissed me off with that Marvin Harrison deal. But he was by far the best player on the field, and they look great there. Cardinals get the easiest win of the day, 41-10 over the Rams. Rams fall to 0-2. Cooper Kupp might be out. Remember, it looked like after Puka went out, that Cooper Kupp could be wide receiver 1 this year and the guy that wins your drafts. Now all our DeMarcus Robinson shares look a little better, but not looking good for the Rams. What do you think about that game, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, the Rams are dead. Cross them out spread. I don't see it happening this year. I think last year they overexcelled a lot in a lot of positions. Now there's no Aaron Donald on that defensive line to just kind of mask all that. They can't stop anything on their defense. They can't stop passing. They can't stop running. I'm pretty sure if the teams just punted the ball that they can catch muffs down the other end at this point. Like, they're going to be picking top 5. I think their little run has finally come to an end. I know a lot of injuries have happened, but still, like, there's 3 key injuries on this team right now. So 2 wide receivers and the one guy on the offensive line. And they look like a bottom.
They get their starting left
already.
tackle back next week. That could help because he was suspended.
I mean, we'll see. But if he doesn't have anyone to move the ball to, they all know Kyron's going to get the ball a ton. So, I mean, I think they're bottom 5. I'm crossing them out. They're not making the playoffs. They're going to finish probably dead last in that division.
Could it be that Arizona just that good? They put up 34 against Buffalo the week before. Now they put up 41. Scores have been down. They're crushing it. Are we just underrating Arizona?
No, I mean, I think their offense, we talked about it. I think their offense is going to be top 5, but I think their defense.
I
bottom
didn't,
10.
so I'm underrating them.
Yeah, they were able to move the ball any way they wanted. Like, James Conner was just chunk running plays off. Marvin Harrison had 4 catches, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns by the end of the first quarter.
Yeah.
Shouldn't happen.
One of our best ball darlings, Trey Benson, looks slow to me.
Yeah, he's dead. He's done.
I don't know if he's done, but he's not as good as I was hoping.
After seeing him play in the preseason, it looked like he was running in mud, and then the Arizona coach right before the season started saying, yeah, James Conner's the bell cow. I think that
and James Conner's not that fast, and he looks way faster.
Yeah, Benson looks like he's running with cinder blocks on his feet.
Benson looks like a fullback. All right, Tyler. Let's talk about the one game we got right, and that was my guy Mike Tomlin's ability to just destroy rookie quarterbacks. As the Broncos were lucky to get 6 points, it almost felt like I thought they were going to pitch a shutout. Watching that game, T.J. Watt was once again in the backfield the whole game, and some of the stuff that you said before the season about Bo Nix. I mean, he just can't push it down the field. Now, I want to see him go against a weaker defense because this is 2 tough ones to start with Mike McDonald and then improve Seahawks defense and then arguably the best defense in the league and the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the path doesn't get any easier for him next week. So this is a tough start for the rookie. Let's see if he grows from it. But this team just can't get anything going on offense. Once again, the Steelers' offense looks kind of lethargic, and it felt like a never-in-doubt game. What were your thoughts seeing your hometown heroes get the win in Denver?
It was an ugly win, just like week 1. We were able to stop Denver's offense and just put it on them. I mean, you can't move the ball outside of Pickens and Najee running it into the defensive line and hoping to break some tackles. So it's going to be ugly, but we're 2-0. I'll take it.
Yeah. I like Fields on this team. It's the perfect team for him.
Yeah.
Because he's better on 3rd and short. Yeah. Still, I mean, the ceiling is going to be the same, right? It's going to be a wild card loss.
Yeah, they're not beat.
Other than if they face a team that just lucked into the playoffs, like I just don't see them beating like a playoff team. They don't.
Or a team that's into the playoffs and then one of their key guys got injured in the last.
Yeah,
game.
right. Yeah, I mean that's to me the only way. They're not going to be able to keep pace against the top teams, but. Looks like another winning season for Tomlin. I think they're going to go like 9-8 again. So, I mean, the guy just keeps chugging along. Maybe he's able to develop Fields. Who's your new OC there? Oh, it's Arthur Smith, huh?
Arthur Smith.
Yeah. From a fantasy perspective, it was more of a balanced attack with Jaylen Warren getting more work this week. Najee looked all right. I was hoping he'd look a little better. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say here.
Yeah, let's dive into these last couple of games and get through the Monday night game because I got to get out of here in like 10 minutes.
Oh, my bad. Okay, Bengals Chiefs. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Chiefs prevail late is an ugly game. I don't know what it is with the Bengals. They just play this Chiefs team tough. Like that does not look like the Bengals team we've seen in week 1. Chase is yelling at the ref, draws him 15 yards. And then on that 4th and 16, they blitz 3 guys and drop everyone else back into coverage and let Mahomes just pick his spot, whip the ball at a wide receiver, and then the rookie cornerback tackles the wide receiver before the ball gets there, and they gift them the game in the end. So just the Chiefs finding another way to win.
Yeah, and I want to complain, but that was a penalty. I
Yeah, it
want
was
the
a
Bengals
penalty.
to win so bad.
Pacheco going down is big.
Yeah, he was huge for them, and that backup looks like a fullback too. Talk about being slow. So
Yeah.
they're going to go back to their old ways. They're already missing Hollywood out for the year, so these increased weapons that we thought they were going to have. At least Rashee Rice is the new Kelsey. It seems like his new go-to guy. Kelsey, I way overdrafted him. I'm sure he might have a couple good games this year, but this
He's not
is
going to have
the,
him anywhere where they're going to be good for you, though. He's not going to have him until the playoffs, and not the fantasy playoffs, the actual playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, that's really disappointing because I have a lot of Mahomes Kelsey stacks, and I just don't think they're going to get there. Mahomes Rice looks like it was the way to go. All right, let's talk about last night's game. Tyler, this game wasn't nearly as close as the final score was. I mean, the Texans, they should have won by 20.
Yeah,
There were so many
left
penalties in
so
this
many
game.
points on the board.
Yeah.
They left so many points on the board. They get down inside the 5-yard line. Everyone knows you do not give Cam Akers the ball inside the 5-yard line. They give it to him. What's the first thing he does? He puts the ball on the ground. That should have been 24 right there. They should have covered this game. Caleb, he has decent mobility and he's able to evade some sacks. But then he just starts to throw the ball into places where you shouldn't. Like he evades sacks. Run the ball for 5 yards and run out of bounds. Tries to thread the needle into triple coverage and throws multiple picks. So I don't like his decision making. That's one thing I did not like about him coming out of college. I thought his interceptions was going to be big this year. He didn't throw any in week 1 because they couldn't complete anything. And then in week 2, he throws 3. So I think he's going to be an interception guy for a while. And he's going to have flash plays, but I think some of his 50-50 balls are going to come down with the defense a lot.
Coaching staff isn't doing him any favors either, and I wonder if this is the right team to develop him. And I know everyone said, "Oh, he's got all these weapons. This is the best thing." No, the line's terrible.
Yeah,
the O-line is terrible. So, I mean, I would rather be in the Herbert situation with no weapons and have time to throw.
Yeah, I agree.
To have all these weapons but not have any time. So,
I
once
use the bathroom real
again,
quick. Just keep talking about that game.
yeah, I mean, once again, I think this is sometimes where our fantasy analysis can mess with our ability to bet these games because on paper, you got to love the trio of Moore, Allen, and Adunze. And I know that Allen missed the last game, but that's always an issue with Keenan Allen, which is why I think the Chargers were willing to move on from him. But when you can't block, it doesn't matter who's out there. You can have Jerry Rice on one side, Tim Brown on the other. It doesn't matter if you don't have time. Unless you're Stafford, Brady, or Manning, and you can process in 2.5 seconds, which is tough for a rookie to expect to do. It's just simply not going to happen. So let's talk about tonight's game. I think I've already hinted where I'm at. Originally, I wanted this to be the Falcons bounce back week. But hey, everyone, talked about, oh, Arthur Smith is gone. Arthur Smith sucks. Arthur Smith that, right? Well, what about this new guy, Zach Robinson, that throws out of shotgun 90% of the time and runs out of pistol 90% of the time? Genius, buddy. Even I can figure out what you're going to do there. And I know that we love all these weapons, but boy, we talked about Rodgers being washed. Cousins has no mobility right now, and maybe it's starting to become more obvious why they took a quarterback with that number 8 pick. I'm wondering if they're just trying to let Cousins play a couple games, look good, and then maybe they can trade him to a team that needs a quarterback like Miami or maybe one of these other teams that, Carolina or somebody, and just get out of that contract because I wish the Penix would start right now. I don't think Cousins has it anymore. I think that he was already a below average athlete to start with, and now he's coming out that injury. He's even slower. To be fair, I talked about the Steelers defense could be one of the best in the league, but as you mentioned earlier, Philadelphia is right up there with them. So while we're not going to write Atlanta off for the whole season yet, or cry about our Bijan, Drake, Cousins stacks just yet. I don't think tonight's the night they get to get back. I'm all over Philadelphia tonight, and I figure that A.J. Brown injury just gave me an extra point because I don't think that we're going to need A.J. Brown in order to win this game. I think they're going to win at the line of scrimmage. It's going to be another big game from Barkley and Devontae. Maybe Jahan Dotson finally looks good in the NFL. I'm on the Eagles -5.5. Tyler, am I too square after watching upsets all weekend?
No, I think the Eagles just kind of take care of business here. I think they win the battle in the trenches. I think they are able to cover this Atlanta team well. There's 2 weapons you got to stop, or actually 3 if you count Bijan with the running back spot. But passing weapons, there's really only 2 in Pitts and London. And the more I watch London play, I don't think he's good. I think he's categorized right with the likes of Anthony Richardson and quote-unquote freak athletes that aren't really good at football. He's 6'6".
That's funny because his athleticism isn't even elite. I remember watching a scout that was like Malik Neighbors is 10 times the player that Drake London is.
Yeah, it's just Drake London is just a huge guy. He's like Mike Evans, but he doesn't have half
and I
the
think
skill
that's what he was
Mike
supposed
Evans
to
has.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, but Cousins, he cannot move. Like, I know TJ Watt's the best defender in the league. He's going to get to the quarterback, but he does all his damage off the edge. So you have that split second when he's rounding the corner to get rid of the ball or do something and move. Now what happens when Philadelphia's pressure is all through the middle? They're going to bum rush this dude all game. I don't think Atlanta's going to be able to run the ball. I think Philly's defense has him in shambles early. I think their defense is live to put a touchdown on the board. I think Hurts and Saquon, and they just funnel the offense between those 2, Smith and Goddard. Like, I could see Barkley and Hurts running a combined 35 times. Smith gets 10 to 15 targets, and Goddard gets 5 to 8. And that's the entire offense. I wouldn't touch any of these other pieces like Dotson because I think that there's a chance. Yeah, Dotson's on the field as wide receiver too, but I don't think he ever looks his way. If he does, it's only going to be for a few targets. They're going to funnel this to the main guys, and I think they win this game 31-10. I think they smash them.
I'd like to see Penix sooner than later here. So let's see how Cousins looks tonight. One of Cousins' attributes that we always point to, make him a good quarterback, was the ability to make the reads quickly. But we didn't see that last week. And like you said, these aren't like Pitts is a super freak athlete, but I think he fits more into what you were talking about earlier, where he might just not be that great a football player. I think London I don't think London's as good an athlete, though. So I don't know. I mean, we'll find out, and we can eat our words. I mean, we saw a lot of teams bounce back that we were talking crap about on this show last Monday, right? So but I just think Philadelphia
isn't this matchup for Atlanta also the same exact matchup they played last week versus a slightly worse defense and a much better offense? Because Hurts is better than Justin Fields. Saquon Barkley is a much better.
Not to mention they're on the road. It's a dome team outdoors at night.
Yeah.
In a crazy stadium. So they're not going to be able to audible that well either.
Yeah, this is the Eagles spot.
Yeah, I mean, it's been upsets all weekend, and dogs were covering, and moneyline dogs were covering, but I think that ends.
Everyone's going to run to bet this +5.5, and they're going to lose by 25.
Yeah, and you know that was my original thinking last week because I said Atlanta can't be that bad. You know, the Steelers are just one of the best defenses, but looking more into it, I mean, maybe he'll get there because it does take a long time to rehab these things. But from what we saw last week, he's just not physically capable of playing the position. You know, because they'll say, "Oh, well, he can still sling it." You know, it's like I was listening to Middlecoff last night. He's like, "Well, you took Dan Marino out to a field right now, he can still sling it." You know, it's not the arm isn't going to get you there. You got to be able to drop back, make these reads, and what was he so good at in his career? Was play action. Well, he's not mobile enough to do play action, and maybe we see that tonight. But unless Penix gets in the game, I think the Eagles crush. And I want to see Penix sooner than later. Hopefully the Falcons pull Panthers, right? And just hey.
I don't think they will though.
I don't think they will either because I think they got to think because they can get off this contract with the trade, right?
I think
if you don't think that Miami would be interested in Cousins if he put up 31 points tonight,
I don't think they have the money.
Yeah. How much did he get? Way too
100
much.
million
Huh?
guaranteed, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a stupid contract. I mean,
They'll
maybe he
have
makes
their out,
me
and
my
he's going to
words
play the whole
tonight,
year. Yeah, he's
I don't
going
think
to
he's
play
gonna stay
probably
healthy all year. He
most of the
can't
year.
move.
If he stays healthy, he's going to play as long as he can, and then they'll go to Penix, or they'll cut Cousins in the offseason once they get the out in the contract. I highly doubt you see him traded.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wonder. I wonder how it goes. And, you know, hopefully for the NFL, I'm wrong and he looks good tonight because we don't want to see another crappy team. But at least there's an option if he sucks, right? I mean, you're not going to Andy Dalton here.
No,
what are we wowing,
have your guy
Tim? What are we
as a backup.
wowing? This is Overreaction Monday, Tim. We're here for the hot takes. All right, Tyler. I'm going to give out JC's play. Where is it? He bet same game parlay, Barkley TD and Eagles money line for even money. You got to like that. I think Barkley has a huge game tonight. What are you going on, Tyler? I just took the simple. Yeah, I am slandering Kirk. I've been doing it all summer, Tim.
Yeah,
I'm taking Eagles minus 5.5. What do you got?
I'll be on the 5.5, and I will also be on Devontae Smith's anytime touchdown.
You want to try and make a comeback and add that to our sheet right now?
Yeah, I can do that while I'm on the road.
I got to
get out of here, so I'll let you wrap this up. I'll talk to you guys.
Thank you, Tyler. Let's see if we can see if we can make this a little bit better. And tomorrow we'll be back with some bets to bounce back. Thank you everyone for watching. This is fanspeak.com. Give us a like, all that great stuff. Fanspeak.com, the place to be for daily fantasy information.